Hello and welcome, all you amazing people, not just to a brand new episode, but to a brand new series. Because You Are Human is collaborating with Rising Up Arabia, a wellness platform, wherein we are trying to bring out stories of those who have had or still have any kind of physical challenge, health issues, and yet they have used it to their strength and are transforming their lives for the better. Shaznan, who is the founder of Rising Up Arabia, and I are teaming up to curate these series. Without further ado, let me begin the first episode of this unique series. And my first guest today is so interesting. Let me introduce her. She is a PhD in business. She is also a Master NLP coach and is also the founder of Dragon Taming program. Yes, you heard it right. Dragon Taming program. What is it all about, dragons? We will find out in this conversation. But before we move forward, let me also speak a little more about her. So, today she's a coach and she's transforming lives of people. She's giving direction to a lot of us. But in her early years, she was, I wouldn't say kinda lost, but she had not connected with herself. She thought she does not have a worth in life. She always questioned her existence because she used to get bullied because of a Tourette syndrome. Let's know more about her journey and her transformation in today's episode. Please welcome Leigh Debreen. Hi Leigh, how are you today?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me here.
Did I say your name correctly? Leigh Debreen.
You actually
I
said
did,
it right.
right?
Yeah, it's
I
exactly right. Yeah.
I practiced it like 20 times before, and Shaznan was telling me Breen. So I'm glad that, I hit it right in the first go.
Well, I say brain.
Brain.
Like the brain. It's linked to the brain.
That's perfect. It's so amazing to have you on the episode today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's so exciting to be here.
Leigh, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm really, really, really delighted to have you here and to see what more you will share, because the last time we met for our, the first initial meeting to get to know each other, I was absolutely, I would say I was a little touched by your story, but I was inspired to the next level. And I did speak about you to a lot of people.
That's always a good sign.
Yes, absolutely. In the introduction of you, I did begin with what you are today. Mm-hmm. However, I also included your early years. I would want to start with talking about it because the introduction was ended at that note, and I'm sure all the audiences who are listening or watching would be curious to know about it. So, are you comfortable talking about your early years and about the Tourette syndrome? Yes. I would like to personally know that. How did it impact you in your early years? And because Tourette syndrome is also different in a lot of people. Yeah. So if you can elaborate more on that, please.
Yeah. So the Tourette syndrome kicked in when I was around 7 years old. And Tourette's takes many different forms. So most people know it as the swearing, the compulsive swearing. I don't have that, thank goodness. But I do have tics. So they'd be sounds like coughing or like grunting, sniffing. And they actually change. They can kind of morph over time. And I also had an involuntary movement in my right shoulder, which I had no control over. So my younger years were really, really difficult. I was seriously teased and bullied at school. So that made life really difficult. And I used to hate going to school. I started to develop a belief that I was deeply inadequate and that I was flawed in some way. And I hated myself, and I hated the fact that God had made me this way. And I couldn't understand why I had to be so different, which was really painful. But a gift at the same time, which we'll come to. But
No, absolutely. And I can only imagine how difficult it could be because as a child, thankfully, I have never been bullied, but I have seen people bullying somebody, like in school. If somebody is very dark, people would pick on that person. If someone is even very fair, they would label them, with names. Someone is based on physical appearances, yes. And if someone, there's something called as stammering. People stammer.
Yeah,
and when people do that, make jokes about it.
Yeah.
And we feel, they're just children, they're just joking. But you don't know how it impacts the other person. So I've always stood by people who are getting bullied.
Yeah.
And I would see that some of them, they cannot fight for themselves because it impacts you at such a deeper level. You lose your self-confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
So at least the way I have been brought up, I would ensure that at least I speak up for them and, just try to fight those bullies. And I think it's a message we all should carry forward, that neither we should get bullied nor we should bully. Because it leaves such a deep impact on someone's development.
Yeah.
You have labeled your emotions of feeling inadequate as dragons. Yeah.
Yes. So it's the feeling itself is not really the dragon, but what I refer to as dragons is the defense mechanisms. And they come about as our really deep-rooted fears and our fear patterns.
Right.
So in my case, because I was feeling so deeply inadequate all the time, my dragon started creeping in and then took me hostage. So my dragon is a self-deprecation dragon. So this is where you begin to hate yourself and really see yourself as inadequate, having no value whatsoever. And what happens is our brain is designed to protect us. It wants to avoid pain and keep us in a state of pleasure. So the dragons initially come in to protect us.
Right.
But over time, if we don't actually recognize the pattern, they actually begin destroying us. So the pattern my dragon would use was avoidance. So, I would avoid people and want to be on my own because that way I wouldn't be bullied or judged or criticized. And my dragon would also convince me that failure was a certainty. So I used to dread failure. And to protect me, my brain would convince me, or my dragon would convince me, don't try anything. Because if you try anything or you want to achieve something, you're going to fail. And that will result in disappointment and pain. So do nothing, play small, and limit yourself. And then that's how the dragons take us hostage and keep us locked into their dark caves.
Wow. I could just so resonate with it because it so happens when you find yourself tied up and caught up into the swirl of emotions, and we try to decode what exactly it is. And you have given them this, a physical form of dragons, because we all know how dragons look like. We've never seen them, but at least I know, okay, if this is happening to me, it is a dragon. And I could visualize every single way, the way you were explaining it. How did this term dragons come alive? Like, how did you think that, okay, this is a dragon?
Well, it was quite interesting. I always used to refer to the pattern as a dragon.
Oh, you did?
Well, initially, so that was what I used to call it. And I always used to say I was hostage to my own dragons. And then when I started coaching people, I'd be talking about their dragons. And then I came across the work of Dr. Jose Stevens, and he talks about the dragons as the personality patterns. And it was like such a fit. It just slotted in so beautifully.
Yeah.
So he allowed me to use his dragons, and then I could develop those a little bit further and then develop my own program around those. But that's how the dragons came into being. And I love the idea of the metaphor, because when you're working with a metaphor, it shuts off the analytical mind. We don't resist what it is that we don't resist the pattern or what we're becoming aware of. It can sink straight into the heart.
Right.
So it's,
Because I think somewhere I would say that it's an enemy, right? To your growth, to your accepting yourself. Yes. When you give a face to your enemy, it is easier to deal with it. So I absolutely love the fact that you're calling it dragon, because now the enemy has a face, and you would then take the next step to deal with it, to fight it. Yes. When did this all change for you? Because I remember you mentioning that you enrolled in a college for your higher education and you did not continue with it.
Yeah.
You dropped out, which you went back to it later with a different spirit, but you did, drop out, and you were still not having a lot of friends. In fact, none. You were just by yourself. What changed your life? What happened that we have you here, you're transforming all our lives now?
So I think for me, it was, my life was really limited. So as I said, I had all these issues. On top of the Tourette's, it generally comes with attention deficit disorder. So I also had the ADHD, so I was hyperactive, couldn't focus, really believed I wasn't smart enough and couldn't do things. I had eating disorders. I had a whole lot of things. And then when I went to university, I was still deeply entrenched in my beliefs that I wasn't smart enough. And I really struggled with university and dropped out. And I was happy to just play small and stay captive to the dragon. But within each and every one of us is another voice. It's our true, authentic self. I call this our majestic voice. And this voice calls us to be something bigger, to do more and fulfill our destinies. And that voice started rising up. I could hear the voice, but the dragons roared so much louder, so I'd still revert back to the dragons. But I became aware of this voice. And then it was actually, long story short, but I got into Kung Fu and then into the Tai Chi. I was useless at Kung Fu. I wasn't, no sixth sense, no ability to anticipate any of the moves. So I was becoming injured. And then my master kind of forced me into Tai Chi, which was excruciating for me with the ADD, because it's a martial art in slow motion. And moving slowly and needing to maintain stances for long periods of time was excruciating. But it was so powerful because through that I developed willpower and discipline.
Right.
And then I could rewire my brain. And Dr. Joe Dispenza mentions it quite a bit. He says that, when the mind becomes stronger than the body, then we win. And that was the first step for me, is I started taking control back of my mind. And then once I had the control, the movement, involuntary movement went away, the Tourette's dissipated. And then I was fascinated with how the mind worked, which kind of started the path into neuroscience and understanding behaviors.
Wow, that's amazing. Tai Chi, we all have heard of it, but how has Tai Chi transformed you? Like the power of Tai Chi.
Yeah.
What has it done to you so far? I know you did explain that, it was the stepping stone, in a way.
Yeah.
But how has it transformed you as an individual? Like till date, when you look back, you're like, okay, this 1, 2, 3, 4 has changed, and I would give it just to Tai Chi.
So I think that the big thing with Tai Chi is stillness of mind. And that was a big thing for me. And I think for many people suffering with ADD or any of these things where we can't calm our minds, Tai Chi is amazing. And I think stillness of mind is the foundation of all spiritual practices.
Absolutely.
In fact, even one of my favorite verses in the Bible was always, be still and know that I am God.
Right.
And that's what it is, because when we still, we can tune into divine intelligence. Right. We tune into something so much bigger than ourselves. And then we can work with this.
Right.
And that's what changes everything.
Yeah. And then you can align so much that is going haywire in your life, right?
Yeah.
And that really worked with your ADHD and even your Tourette's with your tics.
And my thoughts, it really calmed down my nervous system. I was so much less reactive. So, even if someone teased me or bullied me, it didn't impact me. I was calm.
Yeah.
I had compassion for the other person because I realized that they weren't aware of what they were actually doing.
And I think that is the ultimate goal of our existence, right? To reach to that mindset.
Yeah.
Because I think even yoga, as you said, a lot of them have this as a base, stillness, balance.
Yes.
Same thing as with yoga, same thing as with so many other physical activities that we do.
Yeah.
And all the spiritual books, all the religious books focus on this. It's, as you quoted the Bible, I think even in the Holy Bhagavad Gita, it is said the same. And I'm sure all the other also follow the same. And they preach the same.
Exactly.
Wow.
You need to still the mind.
Yes.
And then you can access your heart and divine intelligence. Yeah.
Divine intelligence. That is amazing. Because these days we are so consumed by things which are, we say, okay, that person is so intelligent, but just knowing how many continents are there, what's the capital of every country, it's just knowledge that you have. Yeah. And I think the highest intelligence that we all seek for is the divine intelligence, because that's the one that grounds us, that anchors us into ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's beautiful. You actually have a program called Dragon Taming Program, is what I mentioned in the
Yes.
beginning. And as you previously said, that now you work towards more neuroscience and energy healing.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about that? What is this program? Don't give in a lot, but if you can just, for me and for the audiences, as to what it is, because it's a very alien term, Dragon Taming Program. But if you can just elaborate more on that.
Okay. So we work across the conscious, the unconscious, and the superconscious minds. So working consciously with the mind, the body, and then the superconscious, the divine intelligence and intuition. And essentially what we do, it's an accelerated program to help people identify their dragons. So there's 7 dragons, dragon patterns that exist. And then once people understand their patterns, then we help unravel them through conscious applications and understanding of the patterns, and intentionally kind of changing the thoughts or what's happening. And then what we do is we also then work, as I said, across the unconscious and superconscious. But essentially what we're doing is we're shifting energy away from the negative dragon patterns and the shadow into the light, into our golden pillars of the majestic self. And when we step into this, we're clear on our dreams and desires. It's strongly linked to our purpose, how we serve the world, our identity. We then know what empowered actions we need to be taking. And then very important, we link to what I call the magician. And then this is where we really connect to our genius. And often our genius is in our darkness. It's in our flaws, the things we hate about ourselves, like the ADD and all those things. Even the Tourette's, that's my gift. That's where my genius lies and my creative abilities. And that's how I serve the world. And when we link to magician, we're able to connect with that genius. And then we can also create whatever it is that's in our hearts and our dreams. We make those desires become a reality.
Yeah.
So it's all about shifting fear to power and breaking free from the dragons, so we can shift into that light, that higher frequency, happier emotions. Essentially, it's more empowered thoughts, happier emotions, and powerful, effective behaviors.
Wow. Yeah. You talked about these golden pillars. What do they represent?
So the golden pillars are the almost like I like working with archetypes. So it makes it easier for people to relate to it. So the golden pillars are, where we want to access the various levels. So as I said, the one
it's like saying like, okay, if I've crossed this level, say if my fear level is say 10, okay, I'm just giving it a number. And if I cross this golden pillar, that means I have achieved or reduced my fear to say 5. Would that be the representation of the golden pillar?
In a way, yes and no. So what happens is, when we hostage to dragons, we're giving power to someone or something. And that's in our dragon pattern. So we want to be clear on where we're giving our power and take the power back. And then we're going to move into the light. So for instance, when we're working in lover, we're working with what are our dreams and our desires. And then where we're giving power, that's stopping us from achieving these things, blocking that inspiration to move forward. Then we'd be working with our queen or king. And then it's looking at where we're giving power there that stops us accessing our vision and our identity and who we are. And then you'd move into the warrior, which is all around action and what blocks us. It stops us from taking action.
So warrior is one of the golden pillars, is what you're saying.
One of the pillars.
They're labeled with certain names, and then you know how far you've moved forward to transforming yourself and beating those dragons.
And you're clearing all the energy, or all the negative beliefs you have that are linked to those dragons. So the dragons, there'll be dragons directly connected with each pillar.
Right.
So we work through clearing the dragon away, and then we're taking all that energy from our negative thoughts and feelings, and we're shifting it into something powerful, where now we have all this amazing energy at our disposal to fulfill our dreams, to serve the world, to make a difference. And we feel amazing while we're doing it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, just listening to it, I feel amazing. And I think it is, the basis of this is to give clarity. Because once you have clarity, only then you can move forward. Right? Even with identifying your own dragons. How can one identify their dragons? How do I know that this is my dragon?
It's a little bit difficult to answer that one. I'd say firstly look at your limiting beliefs, because the answer would lie there. What I would also suggest is be aware of your triggers. So if you're in a situation where you're feeling triggered and you'll feel it in your body and the emotions kick in, then focus on what was it that triggered you, and then what were you thinking in that moment? What was your thought or your belief in that moment? And then you'll see a theme. It will be something like, I'm not good enough, this person is judging me, whatever the case is. And these themes will keep presenting themselves.
Right.
And then that's linked to the dragon. You'll be able to see your dominant patterns.
So whenever I do have a moment so I do have a bit of anger issues, all right? So if I have to find out, because anger is not just, it's just in itself. There is a cause to be feeling that anger.
Yes.
Now, whenever I get angry, I'm supposed to just sit back and see what made me angry.
Was
it me being insecure?
Yes.
Was it my ego playing a role? Right?
Yes.
So this is the right way to move forward. Okay.
And then whatever the thought is that comes up, I can guarantee you that thought is a lie. It's not the truth. It's your truth, but it's not the truth. So then we want to change that thought. We want to turn it into something that's more accurate.
Right.
Yeah.
Just this morning, my mom and me, we were discussing on something, and she heard from somebody, and she said that sometimes we always think of correcting our actions. But more than correcting our actions, we have to correct our thoughts.
Yeah.
Because while we were thinking of it, we have already lived it. We already did it. So when we are in that situation, we've already done it. So there is not much you can do when you're in that situation, because there is a possibility where you will give in and you would exactly do the same thing that you thought.
Yes.
So it's really important on, checking your thoughts first and then coming to actions. Because most of the time we're like, it's okay, I thought about this, but my actions, I'm going to ensure it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But it so happens that we have no control over it by then. Right?
And that's why I always talk about our inner world as well. And really being strong on creating a strong inner world where we tell ourselves positive, beautiful stories.
Right.
Because that determines our experience in the outer world. And what happens is our thoughts trigger our emotions. So when we think a thought, it triggers our emotion. We feel the thought.
Right.
And then the emotions will trigger the chemistry. So it's the cortisol or the stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline. And then that's going to create the behavior. So your thoughts trigger emotions, and emotions direct the behaviors.
Absolutely love, feel your thoughts.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to do that. Yeah. Whenever I have a thought, I will try to feel it.
And then we need to change the thought into something positive. So we can then feel something more positive.
Right.
And that's how we create a healthier, more positive internal world.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that is so important to create a healthier, positive inside, the internal world, as you said. Yeah. Just as a sign off, I know you shared so much, and I would definitely encourage all the audiences, anybody who's listening or watching, if you want to get in touch with Leigh directly, we will put the links below, and you could reach out to her for your own Dragon Taming program. That is if you want to do, or just get in touch with her to know more about what she does. Just as a sign off, is there any skill or exercise that we can implement on our day-to-day basis to tame our dragons? Just something really simple, something that we can implement.
Yeah. So I think the first thing is noticing that you are not your dragons. Okay. So when we're thinking these really negative thoughts, recognize they're not true. They're based on a lie. So when you're feeling triggered and you know what it is you're thinking about, immediately recognize that as the dragon, because then that detaches you from that. You can say that's the dragon. And then you can choose to now think something better. And then any kind of mindful movement, whether it's yoga, tai chi, even a mindful walk where you're just aware of your surroundings and the colors, anything around you, it stills the mind.
Right.
And then that also enables us to settle all the chemicals. It brings the body back into balance, into a state of homeostasis. So, yes.
Okay, so first recognizing them to detach them from ourselves because the dragons are not us. It is a separate identity.
Yes.
And we can deal with it. We can eliminate it. And second, to do something that is mindful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then create more empowering thoughts.
Yes, to create more empowering thoughts. That is amazing. And I think that should be everybody's way of life, to be a better version of themselves, isn't it? Thank you so much, Leigh. This was amazing. I absolutely enjoyed our conversation, and you are so well articulated. You explained everything, like these tough concepts. First, I was like, what is dragon taming? And you did it so very well. I am so grateful to you for sharing your journey, your difficult episodes, and your transformation with all of us so that we could change and, we could take a charge of our lives. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If it has inspired you, even slightly, then please like, share, and comment. See you in the next one. Until then, remember, our time is limited. Let's make the most of it. Keep watching You Are Human on YouTube and listen to these amazing conversations on Spotify and other audio platforms.